We're nearing the end of this month-long series on connecting to the human forest. And for me, the series has become a blur. How about you? So I was thinking about what things do I want you to take away, and I've divided it into a two-part devotional series to sum up everything. The first is principles from the series, and the second is actions that we'll take based on those principles. So the first principle is the analogy of the forest in nature and how it compares to the human forest. Forests in nature are based on relationships. Trees are connected through an underground mycorrhizal network. This is where their roots are connected by fungal threads. Trees tend to each other, and this benefits the forest as a whole. For example, when trees start to die, it creates gaps in the canopy. Evaporation increases. The air becomes hotter and drier in the forest, and it becomes harder for trees to survive. Similarly, the human forest is built on relationships. We don't think about it, but the fall or the misery of one human affects others and has a ripple effect. We need to feed each other. We were built for relationships by God, and we need to love God and love neighbor. And that's why church is so important, because it's a place where we can get better at loving God and loving neighbor. Now, the strongest, most mature trees in the natural forest are the legacy trees. They take care of the younger trees and actually do most of the sharing. If the forest burns, the legacy trees are instrumental in rebuilding it. Similarly, we Christians need to be instrumental as legacy trees in the human forest, caring, sheltering, feeding, and rebuilding. I developed a video lesson series called The Legacy Tree, a Christian model for a life of significance. You can find it on my website, ceciltaylorministries.com. In this series of connecting to the human forest, I've only scratched the surface of the legacy tree principles. Let's cover a few of them that were called out in the series. One is that a legacy tree's branches provide a lot of shade. As human legacy trees, we provide shade through kindness, but that starts with awareness. We have to have an awareness of the need of the other before we can fully be kind to them. Another step up from that is not just the short-term engagement of kindness, but being present with others on a more frequent basis, and this allows us to plant seeds in other people. And then that can grow into something else, which is a set of deep individual and group relationships. And in those relationships, you'll see repeated commitment, deep sharing, and more vulnerability. And such relationships, as an example, can allow us to do bigger things for people. An example of this was in my devotional, Carrying Hope for the Depressed. In it, I talked about how we can develop close relationships with depressed people, and that allows us to begin to give these three statements to them. First, that God gives you your value and worth. Second, I believe in your value and worth. And third, I will carry your hope for you until you can carry it for yourself. This series, Connected to the Human Forest, has been rooted in the belief that even though the pandemic has been a forest fire in the human forest, good can come in the rebuilding, and we legacy trees must do it. The way we do it is through our actions. That's the topic of my final devotional of the series on Saturday, how we translate those principles into actions. So subscribe to my YouTube channel now, like my Facebook page now, and look for a change in the way I present video content coming in June.